Sometimes we forget why we're here. It's easy to fall off track. These help us remember.
These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Growing up I had a dream, something no one else could see. Tell me what it means when your faith is falling beneath your knees and you can't breathe. Everything you see reminds you of what you're not or something you won't be. You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business. Not because they wanna do it, just because they heard it pays. And who the fuck wants to be poor knowing that's how we've been raised? Society is getting heavy, I can feel the weight. The pressure of success is like 100 million pounds of shame. And that's the reason I'm staying up late, trying to find a way to escape the stereotypes this day and age is making me feel like the only way I'll be happy is getting signed to a label and making money through rapping. I wanna share my emotion because this world is attacking the very principle of life that lets the people be happy. If you don't have a reason to breathe, why even live? These battle scars are impressions of everything that it is.
Don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battle scars don't look like they're faded, don't look like they're ever gone away. They ain't never gonna change. These battles.
Now if I had a voice that reached 100 million people, I'd tell them there's a reason that we're all created equal. Cause some decide to be great and some decide a sequel to an average person's life is simply what they want to be. So you make your decision, all I know is what I'm given. Won't define the life I lead or the way I dwell in existence. I've seen a greater image on the walls of where I'm living, and the words twisted and scripted remind me of something written. Faith is a gift that is given down down to the people. If one believes it, one receives it. It's given if it is needed. Don't ever think you're trapped in a life that you never wanted. Your options are infinite, that's some mathematical logic. I'm not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers in these battles cause I'm a church. Not saying I'm a prophet, I'm speaking for what it's worth. These lyrics define my prayers.
Hi, this is Karen Ann Harlos. Most materials used are available to the general public at lpedia.org, particularly the LP News issues, which are archived in full. Other items used may be things purchased by me for my personal collection, but I am more than happy to make any of them available as well to any researcher. All party items are public. If you found this disclaimer annoying, you can thank some salty bitches in Colorado.
John George Schmitz was a Republican member of the United States House of Representatives and California State Senate from Orange County, California. He was also a member of the John Birch Society. In 1972, he was the candidate for President of the United States of the American Independent Party, later known as the American Party. Schmitz was notable for his extreme right-wing sympathies. By one measure, he was found to be the third most conservative member of Congress between 1937 and 2002, and the ultra-conservative John Birch Society, of which Schmitz was a longtime leader, later expelled him for extremist rhetoric. On October 25, 1971, Schmitz composed an introduction to the highly controversial book None Dare Call It Conspiracy, written by Gary Allen with Larry Abraham. In 1982, after it was revealed, and Schmitz admitted that he had engaged in an extramarital affair and fathered 2 children with one of his former college students, Schmitz's career as a politician effectively ended, as did his wife Mary's as a conservative political commentator.
Okay, everyone. I was doing some stuff in the background. I'm never fully prepared. Okay, I hear the dogs barking upstairs. I hope my house guest isn't here early. Now, if you're wondering what that little video was about, boy, I learned some new things in researching for this episode. Where we're at, again, to remind everyone, we are on August 1972. The bonus episode, we went over the major things in episode 8. This is episode 8A. I might not be entirely up to my game. Most of you know I'd been really sick the past week. This is the first day I have felt even remotely better. So I was looking forward to doing this today. And that's why I'm doing it in the morning rather than at night. I'm like, I feel good now. Let's do it, right? And it should be rather short. These political perspective ones are short. And hello, Dave Davis. I see you checking in. I always like to see the regulars. It makes me really happy. There's a couple things I didn't queue up ahead of time that I'm going to have to queue up on the fly. Hopefully it won't be too, is my lipstick kind of shitty? Sorry. And I know you guys are my friends. You'll tell me if I ever have lipstick on my teeth. Because I do that. That I'll have to queue up on the fly, is what I was saying. And hopefully that will be graceful. But let's get right into the subject matter. Let's see if I've got that queued up properly. And I do, but I didn't bring my printout. What a dumbass I am. I'm going to have to pull this up on my screen to be able to read it. I am so silly. Give me 1 second here. You all can take a gander at it while I'm doing this. Again, we're dealing with the political perspective. For those of you who might be new to these, it's a part of the old LP News where David Nolan, the main party founder, gave his opinion on what was going on outside of the LP and how it affected the LP. So since we're in 1972 and it's an election season, he spends a lot of time talking about what's going on in the race other than the LP candidates. So I will be looking down a little bit. I apologize because I'm having to look at this on my screen. I didn't bring my printout. Sorry. So here we go. Political perspective. The new polarization. I almost feel like we're reading the intro, right, to this is way before his time. Not much, though, of Star Wars. Episode 3, A New Hope. When did Star Wars come out? 1976? was it in the 70s, right? Or am I completely smoking crack? It was in the 70s. I think I was in like 5th grade or 4th grade. So this would have been slightly before his time here, but not much. Boy, I feel old now. Oh my God. Star Wars, the original, was in the 70s. 1977, Daniel Tweet says. That I knew it was around there somewhere. And Chariots of Fire won Best Picture that year, and I was so butthurt about it. And obviously you can tell because it's almost 50 years later, and I'm still freaking butthurt about it. That was an awful movie. Star Wars was way better. Okay, moving on. Political perspective. A lot has happened since we last examined the political scene. George McGovern managed to surprise everyone. He certainly did. He certainly managed to surprise David Nolan. David Nolan did not guess in a million years that McGovern would get the Democratic nomination. But if you remember, things were thrown all in an uproar, and all bets were off when there was the assassination attempt against George Wallace. So let's continue. He said, surprised everyone, even us, by capturing the Democratic nomination and then made another fool of himself in the Eagleton fiasco. I should have looked that up. I do not know what the Eagleton fiasco is. Maybe we'll look that up when we're together. If anyone wants to do a quick Google of that. I didn't notice that when doing my research for some reason. But in this next sentence, I did learn some things. Then in early August, the Wassailite American Party nominated 2 Birchers for president and vice president, thus sharply altering the thrust of its impetus. One of the members of the AP, that is the American Party's platform committee, actually took our platform into the committee hearings. Now, what's interesting here, what I did research on, and we'll probably stop and look at my supplemental material right now, was the American Party. And they were also called the American Independent Party. I had never heard of them before. And there's a little bit of maybe embarrassing to some people history here. But as I've said, history doesn't care about our feelings. You can see by what David Nolan said here is there was some overlap, at least on some issues. Of course, there's overlap on some issues with both parties, but I think more so than we'd like to admit between some of the views of the American Party and the Libertarian Party. I mean, how often do you hear that a Democrat or Republican took the Libertarian platform into committee hearings? I don't think you're going to hear that often, yet that's noticed here. And though people don't like to admit it today, there was a lot of sympathies between the John Birchers and the early Libertarian Party. A lot of people do not like to admit the very hardcore right-wing influence in the early party. Yes, George Wallace did. I'm looking in the chat. Dave Davis said George Wallace ran in '68 on the American Party ticket. He did indeed. And since I had never heard of them before, I had wanted to look them up. So let me take a second here. I have some stuff here on the American Independent Party. And what am I doing wrong in my let me quit this. Okay. And let's go here to a new scene and let me see if I can pull up these items I would like to share with you guys. Here's where things aren't as graceful as normal. Overlay, new image. Let me find these little screenshots I had. I had 2 of them. And here's the first one. This is from Wikipedia on the American Party, which was also the American Independent Party. So you can, I'm going to do some highlights here of things that are really important to us about this. So right in the second paragraph, it says in 1972, the American Party nominated Republican Congressman John G. Schmitz of California for president and Tennessee author Thomas Jefferson Anderson, both members of the John Birch Society for Vice President. They received well over 1 million votes. Now, I did a lot of research on John Schmitz before this episode, and that little clip I played for you was talking about John Schmitz. He was a character. I listened to him speak to, I believe it was UCLA, a bunch of super, super liberal college students. And he like half played the comedian, but really like answered their questions directly and had a lot of guts. And I could see where a lot of similarities were with the LP, but also where there wasn't. Like he was very much anti-drug legalization. You know, there was that streak of the right wing, which we would not agree with. But when it came to economic policy, there was a lot of agreement. Now, what I found also interesting, if you look at this article where it talks about after the 1976 split, what's really interesting is I keep reading about it being called the American Party before 76. So even though it says they split into the more moderate American Party, it seemed like even before 76, they were called the American Party a lot of the time and the American Independent Party some of the time. It seemed like those names were pretty interchangeable. And it said that they split into a more moderate party, which focused on the Deep South. And it says the American Party has not achieved ballot access in any state since 1996. But here's what was interesting. From 92 to 2008, the American Independent Party, so that would have been one half of the split, the less moderate, was the California affiliate of the National Constitution Party, which used to be called the U.S. Taxpayers Party. And we're pretty familiar with the Constitution Party as a sometimes competition with some LP candidates, and they're pretty much the theocratic party of today. And it is interesting with the Constitution Party is that other third parties like morph into affiliates of the Constitution Party. That's happened multiple times. And let me put the Daniel's thing up here on the screen if I can do that, because this is, so everyone has this link. That is the speech I listened to. John Schmitz at UCLA in October 72. It's about 55 minutes long. It is really interesting. He is a character, and you're not going to like what he says a lot of times. I certainly didn't. He was really weird on like the Vietnam War and things. But the guts he had in directly answering a very hostile crowd was, you don't see politicians being that honest anymore. Like, he was very honest about his views, even though he knew he was dealing with a hostile audience that booed him most of the time. So if you're interested in that bit of history, you'll want to watch that. It was very interesting. So let me pull up something else on the screen. I want to get rid of that, and let's pull up another overlay. New image. Give me 1 sec and I will find it. Here we go. Now, this is, let me move this, try to get it away from, it's not covering my face. Also from Wikipedia. And we already knew about, when the first convention was held. But here's what was interesting. I did not know this. Following the 1980 federal elections, the Libertarian Party assumed the title of being the third largest party for the first time after the American Independent Party and the Conservative Party of New York, the other largest minor parties at the time, continued to decline. So we've been the third largest party since 1980. I didn't know when we gained that title, and I didn't know who we took it from. And now all of this history is coming together. I like seeing the dots connect. And I've also been very interested in our title as third largest party because of, if you've watched my other shows, of how I see the People's Party as a threat. So let's go back to the political perspective. And now I need to pull it back up on my screen if I can. Of course I closed it because why not? Let me pull that back up. Why can't I find it? Okay, here we go. And I need to maximize that so I can see it because I'm old. All right. We're on the second paragraph now. The net result of these two developments is that we face a situation that is radically different from what we would face in a Nixon-Humphreys-Wallace race, which is what was anticipated. The left is now virtually inaccessible to us. So they were always open to reaching out to the left, but they're like, that's not going to happen now. They're now committed to McGovern. Okay? And the orthodox right will be far harder to reach for two reasons. First, because McGovern's candidacy will scare a lot of the potential recruits back to Nixon. And second, because those who don't go back to Nixon will probably go to Schmitz. This paragraph is fascinating because history repeats itself. Every election is the most important election of our lifetime, right? You can just hear them, can't you? You can't vote for this new third party, these libertarians, because McGovern might beat Nixon. So you have to, even if you don't like Nixon, you have to go vote for him. And then the ones who might be willing to risk something is going to go to the larger third party at the time, which was the American Independent Party, and John Schmitz, who was a known factor. But I just found that to be something we could really relate to. So continuing, and what did I just do? I know you guys can't see what I like have a scroll wheel and I screwed up. I can't find what I was looking at. Okay, here we go. The first of these problems can be overcome to some extent by hitting disaffected conservatives with the arguments presented in our new leaflet, McGovern, the Dangerous Decoy. I've looked everywhere for this pamphlet. I want it so bad. And here's what's funny about it. I can't even find a reference to it anywhere other than in LP News. There isn't even an image of it. It isn't referenced in any articles outside the LP that I can find, which just makes me so now curious. This must be a really rare item. Someone in the LP has to have this. Someone who was around in the 70s has to have this pamphlet. I'm hoping they will hear this and at least get me a photocopy of it. I want to see this. I want to get it up on LPedia. It's obviously an important piece of history. It keeps getting mentioned and it's rare. Now, continuing. The second will be harder. Schmitz himself is using many of the same points about McGovern and Nixon to swing people away. And that from HMN, and I believe, what's that say? I can't even read that. I believe he's talking about the Hospers-Nathan ticket. So the points that Schmitz is using would be the same points we would have used to get people to vote for Hospers and Nathan, and he was a much bigger candidate at the time. In a way, the respective candidacies of McGovern and Schmitz are a good thing, for they will force us to stress our differences from orthodox liberalism and conservatism, and that was a very good thing. And at least McGovern and Schmitz are not just handing out the same old establishment bull. They are forcing people to look at the system, become aware of its weaknesses, and consciously choose between differing philosophies. And that is so interesting. So basically, he's praising McGovern in a way, saying he at least walks the walk, I guess. He's an actual leftist. And Schmitz is an actual conservative, and that's good for the Libertarian Party because it will force us to actually be libertarians, which we fail at doing so much. And hello, Julian. I'm just saying hi in chat. Okay, continuing. He says, in some, they are polarizing and fragmenting the body politic. Something which is to our benefit in the long run, although it may make our task a bit more difficult in the short run. We can capitalize on the McGovern and Schmitz candidacies to some extent by pointing out that the LP offers a philosophy which combines the best aspects of both McGovernism and Schmitzism: greater social freedom, less repression, reduction of foreign involvements, and economic freedom. That is a combination that should have tremendous appeal to disaffected individuals who find both the current system and the half solutions offered by McGovern and Schmitz unsatisfactory. And I think this is probably the first time we see really officially the kind of posturing that we do, though I like the way he worded it better than we do today, of saying we are the best of both worlds. That the ultra liberals aren't wrong on everything, and that the ultra right wing aren't wrong on everything, but the things they're wrong on are really wrong. So why don't you come to us, where we take what's good and don't take any of what's wrong, or as the not parable, but the expression goes, eat the meat and spit out the bones. I missed my page again. Okay. And he goes on, a few people have written in asking for my opinion of the American Party Schmitz-Anderson ticket. It so happens that I have met both John Schmitz and Tom Anderson personally, and was at one time fairly friendly with one of Schmitz's assistants. I don't like a lot of Schmitz's stands. He's pro-draft and violently against legalization of drugs, and is an extreme ultra-Montanist Roman Catholic. I didn't look that up either. What is Montanism? I should know that. It's a theological thing. Crap, I think I knew that at one time. Maybe someone could do a quick search and we can figure out what that is. And I didn't even remember reading this. I just listened to Schmitz himself, and I told you he has weird views on Vietnam. I didn't get that he was pro-draft, but that explains why the students were booing him. But he is he has since passed away, rabidly against the legalization of drugs. But I'm wondering what a Montanist Catholic is. But then anyone who advocates repeal of the federal income tax, that's good, right? Repeal of laws against gold ownership, and he did bring that up to the students. He asked them, why can't we own gold? And I thought that was great. And legal tender laws and getting out of the UN can't be all bad. Today's LP, or at least certain factions of today's LP, would rather commit ritual suicide than admit the far right has any correct points. And certain factions of the LP would similarly, in parallel, commit hara-kiri, then admit that anything that the far left says is correct. Nolan here is much healthier view that I wish we would get back to. I've been doing a lot of complaining, figure me complaining, never, about these two factions, which I have become convinced that one side, they're two sides of the same coin, and one side hates the right more than they love liberty, and one side hates the left more than they love liberty. And that's a problem in our party today. Continuing. Both Schmitz and Anderson are intelligent, sincere men of high personal integrity. Unfortunately, they aren't libertarian. Comparing Nixon, McGovern, and Schmitz, I'd rate them as follows in the three major areas of political philosophy: economics, civil liberties, and foreign policy. We'll talk about that rating, but I want to finish the paragraph where Nolan stresses that this assessment is his own and not an official LP statement, which gives Schmitz an edge. And if these were the only three choices available, I'd vote for Schmitz. Thankfully, these aren't the only choices. So we've got to face the historical fact here that the party, that the main party founder openly said if there wasn't a libertarian party, he would have voted for the far right candidate. I mean, that it is what it is. I would have rather he had said he wouldn't have voted. But most of the early LP founders weren't fans of abstaining from the system. In fact, they were very hostile to that, mostly because the people that vociferously advocated never voting and voting is violence were jerks to the LP. Right now, I think we're a whole lot more sympathetic to people who choose not to vote. What's very interesting, and thank you, Daniel, we got a Wikipedia article on Montanism that we'll look up. What's interesting today is how friendly we are to principled non-voters. And some of the more extreme prags don't understand that. They're like, we're a political party. If you don't vote, what good are you? Well, let me tell you something. Some of our best ballot access petitioners are non-voters. Isn't that interesting? They spend their time getting us ballot access, and they are principled non-voters. So don't tell me what good are principled non-voters. They can do a lot of things. The chair of the LPCO 2 chairs ago was a non-voting anarchist, and he was the chair of a political party. And he did a lot of great things. He just didn't vote. And I didn't have a problem with that. What I did have a problem with was him kind of mocking people who did vote. You know, you kind of can't do that, but if you're the chair of a political party. But, you know, everyone has their own little things. All right, so Nixon in economics was given a D+, McGovern was given a D, and Schmitz was given a B+. And I would like to read that book by Schmitz that was referenced in that video I played at the beginning, None Dare Call It Conspiracy. And there's a more recent book, isn't there? It wasn't written by Schmitz, called None Dare Call It Treason. I don't know what either of them are about, but they sound interesting, so I'll probably order that. And then on civil liberties, Nixon was given a C-, McGovern was given a C+, and Schmitz was given a D+. Now, notice then you can see David Nolan's priorities. He said if there was no LP, he would vote for Schmitz. Meanwhile, he gave Schmitz a D+ on civil liberties. So we see David Nolan's personal priorities was economics, because that obviously was more important to him when you look at those 2 columns. On foreign policy, Nixon got a D, McGovern got a D+, and Schmitz got a C. Overall, Nixon got a D+, McGovern got a C-, and Schmitz got a C+. Now, isn't that interesting? The far left candidate and the far right candidate both got C's, one a minus and one a plus, from David Nolan. So let me go over here to my other screen just to click on this link really quick on Montanism, because I'm like so embarrassed I don't know what that is, because theology is like what I knew. So let's you know what I'm going to do? I want to take a screenshot of this, because when I share my screen, things go a little wacky. And let me see if I can put this up on the screen so we can all take a gander at it. I need to clear some things off my desk here, though. Give me one sec. Okay, new overlay. Let me go here to new scene, get me just up here, hi, and pull up this screenshot I just made. Overlays, new image, desktop. Here we go. Here we go, Montanism. Known by its adherents as the New Prophecy, was an early Christian movement of the late 2nd century. Let's see here. It was labeled a heresy for its new prophetic revelations. The prophetic movement called for reliance on the spontaneity of the Holy Spirit and a more conservative personal ethic. What's heretical about it? That is, I don't see anything like really alarming here, do you? Now, I can see perhaps in Catholic circles why it would be considered perhaps I'm not a Catholic myself, so any Catholics can correct me. But Catholics generally aren't charismatic. Now, let me explain what I mean. In normal parlance, charismatic means people who like command a crowd and have this great personality. That's not what charismatic means in theological circles. In theological circles, the charisma is the gift of the Holy Spirit, and charismatics are those who believe in speaking in tongues and kind of that. I'm not a charismatic myself, so just so you know. And I don't mean to start a whole theological thing here, but just my personal, since I opened my mouth, my personal opinion, I'll probably piss off a bunch of Christians here. I have never seen a legitimate case of speaking in tongues. It's all been bullshit. It's all been my mama got a new Honda. And that's just my opinion. I don't believe tongues are a gift for today. And I believe most of the examples of speaking in tongues in the New Testament isn't babble, language of the angels. It's actually speaking in known foreign languages in order to speak to other people to preach the gospel. And it wasn't this weirdo stuff. It was a gift that God gave you to be able to speak another language. My opinion. Don't come for me. Okay, I'm going to go to this click here because I want to see. I'm clicking where it says new prophetic revelations. No, I don't see what's so heretical about this group. Maybe you guys can help me out. Let me see here. I'm continuing in this Wikipedia article, and I'm trying to figure out, were they considered heretical even by, well, I know they existed prior to Protestantism, so I'm being a little anachronistic here, but I'm wondering if today's Protestants consider Montanism heretical, or whether it's just a heresy of the Catholics. Let's see here. Ecstatic prophecy. Okay. Yeah, so they are really tongue speakers. They said the Montanist prophets did not speak as messengers of God, but were described as possessed by God, being unable to resist. A prophetic utterance by a Montanist described this possessed state. Lo, the man is as a liar, and I fly over him as a pick. Interesting. A criticism of Montanism was that its followers claimed the revelation received directly from the Holy Spirit could supersede the authority of Paul or Jesus. Okay, I got it now. So they're claiming that their words could be greater than the Bible, kind of almost like modern Mormon teaching. So now I get why people, okay. I don't see why David Nolan cared, though. So he said Smits was an ultra-Montanist. What does that mean? Like, I don't know. Why was David Nolan upset about a religious view? Doesn't that seem a little weird to you? Oh, this is different. I looked up ultramontanism. That is different. We just looked up Montanism. Let me pull this up for you guys. We're getting some theology here. And I think this will explain why David Nolan was bothered by it. This is a little bit more than some obscure theological dispute. Let me pull this up. Here we go. Okay, ultramontanism. A clerical, political conception within the Catholic Church that places strong emphasis on the prerogatives and powers of the Pope. That explains it. I'm going to read into this, but the fact that Wikipedia says it is a political conception, it makes me think we're talking about some kind of theocratic belief here, which then is very interesting. If that was something that was welcome in the American Independent Party, and then in, was it 1976, the California affiliate of the American Independent Party became the Constitution Party, which we all know is a bunch of theocrats. The dots are connecting. Hopefully you like connecting dots. So I guess they believe they take their political marching orders from the Pope. I'd have a problem with that. I can see why David Nolan would have a problem with that. All right, everyone. That's really all I've got for you today. I'm not going to go through my usual closing thing with, become a patron and all that. You guys already know that. I'm feeling a little tired. I don't want to go through that. You know it. If you can support me, support me. But one thing I did want to bring up is, and let me put this up on the screen here, just so others can get this if they want to read more on this. I have a goal. I have a dream. No, I have a goal. Right now, as you know, I'm trying to reach potential monetization with YouTube, and you have to have certain minimum requirements. I've got enough subscribers. What I don't have is enough view hours, because for the first 9 months of my channel, I just didn't post anything, really. I've only been really hitting it hard for about 3 or 4 months now. You need 4,000 view hours in a year in order to qualify for monetization. It doesn't mean you'll get it. It just means you can be considered for it. I'm at 2.2 thousand view hours. And that's jumped. Like within December, I got like 1,000. My goal for January is to get up to the 4,000. I'll do my part by creating a lot of content. I'm asking you to do your part by watching it and spreading it around. So I'm trying to get 1.8 thousand view hours in January. It's doable. I got over 1,000 in December. So let's see if we can do that. That's my goal. Might not reach it, but let's see if we can. And that's all I've got for you guys. I'm going to be spending the rest of the day recording episodes of The Cult of RONR with Mike Seebeck and doing some bylaws work for the Libertarian Party of Colorado. Not for them, but as member submissions, because long story, you don't even want to know. So have a good day, everyone, and I might do an episode tonight because I've got some other clips, some more Dave Smith clips I would like to go over with you guys. Love you all. Have a good day. Mi guapas de libertad.
You gotta take what you're given, that's how we live it. Don't be mad at the system, it's simply how we've existed. I hear a lot of people talking like they politicians and choose to be an accountant because it's safe in a business.